Okay, so get this. We got this Reddit thread, and it's about this woman who's worried about her friend. He's 27, and he, like, only dates 19 and 20-year-olds.
Hmm.
And the comments are, well, all over the place.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like this pretty simple situation, it seems, sparked all kinds of reactions. I mean, you've got people who think it's totally fine, and then others, well, let's just say they're not so okay with it.
Yeah. It's like everyone's trying to decide if this guy's, just doing his thing or if there's something, I don't know, kind of creepy about the whole thing.
Right. But this deep dive, it's not just about like one guy's, dating life, right?
Yes.
It's more about how, like, as a society, we view age and maturity and all that in relationships, and how those views, well, they sometimes clash, especially online.
For sure. And one thing that jumps out from this thread is how intense people's opinions are. Like, whoa, age gaps are definitely a touchy subject, and people, they're not holding back.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is this whole tension between, individual freedom and like societal expectations, right? You've got people who are like, hey, consenting adults, they can do what they want. And then others who are like, hold on, there's something not right about this big of an age gap. They're worried about, power imbalances and stuff.
It's this constant back and forth, like, you do you, but then also, but what will people think? And speaking of what people think, there's this rule that kept popping up. The half your age plus 7 rule. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's this, well, kind of random formula that's supposed to tell you what's a socially acceptable age gap.
So basically, you take your age, cut it in half, add 7, and bam, that's like the youngest person you should date. Sounds pretty mathematical, but is there any real logic to it?
Well, it goes back to the 1800s, those old social norms. Back then, the idea was that men should be older in relationships, and people still bring it up even today, though. It's been debated like crazy.
So if we use that rule of this guy from Reddit, it kind of puts him right on the edge of what's acceptable, I guess. But a lot of the comments, they're still like, this maturity gap is a red flag.
Yeah, and you know what? They have a point. That rule, it might be a starting point for the conversation, but age isn't the only thing that determines maturity. Right? Think about it.
Yeah.
A 19-year-old and a 27-year-old, yeah, they're both adults legally, but their life experiences, their emotional development, those could be totally different.
It's like one person said. Lots of growth and experience on one side, not so much on the other. It makes you think, how big of a gap is too big when it comes to maturity? And, like, how do you even measure that emotional maturity thing anyway?
That's where things get tricky. Maturity's not like, something you can just calculate. It's about emotional intelligence, self-awareness, being able to handle the ups and downs of relationships, all that.
And even if both people are, like, pretty mature for their age, you still have this power dynamic thing to consider. Like, can you really ignore that potential imbalance when one person has way more life experience, maybe even like more money or social status?
Exactly. A big age gap, it can create this power difference without even trying. And look, it's not about saying all age gap relationships are bad. It's about thinking critically and like being aware of those potential problems.
And you know what? Thinking back to when I was 19, let's just say I'm glad social media wasn't around to keep track of all my interesting dating choices back then.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. But the point is, our values change, right? And what might have seemed okay or even, exciting when we were younger, well, now we might think twice about it.
Totally. And speaking of thinking twice, this whole thread really got people talking about double standards too. Like, do we judge age gaps differently depending on who's the older one, the man or the woman?
Oh, for sure. Society tends to be way harder on older women dating younger men than the other way around. It's like this assumption that men have to be the older, wiser one.
Like one comment said, there are tons of 40 and 50-year-old moms dating 19 and 20-year-olds, and no one bats an eye. But try posting about that online and everyone's like consenting adults.
Right. So are we really judging these relationships fairly based on the specific people, or are we just stuck on these old-fashioned ideas about gender roles?
This isn't just some theoretical debate either. These double standards, they have real effects on people in age gap relationships. They face judgment, stigma, sometimes even accusations of being predatory.
And that brings us to something really important but tough to talk about: grooming.
Yeah, it's not an easy topic, but we can't just ignore it, right? The possibility of, manipulation or someone taking advantage, especially when there's a big power difference between people.
And this Reddit thread, people definitely weren't afraid to talk about it. Some comments were seriously worried about, like, actual grooming happening in this situation. Right, and it's important to say we're not saying that every age gap relationship is like that. But it's a real concern, and people need to be aware of those, like, warning signs.
Especially when you think about how, well, someone at that age, 19, 20, they're still figuring things out. Maybe they're looking for someone to, I don't know, make them feel good about themselves or like they belong.
Exactly. So it's super important to look deeper, and really think about how things work between the two people in each relationship.
So, okay, instead of just fixating on the age difference, what else should we be looking at to figure out if an age gap relationship is healthy?
Well, first off, you got to ask, are both people really on the same level? Or is it clear that one person has more power, whether it's money, emotions, social status, whatever?
And what about, like, their reasons for being together? Are they actually interested in each other as people?
Yeah.
Or is there something else going on? Like maybe one person wants to feel important or be in control or even just, like, rebel against what everyone else thinks.
Those are all good questions. It shows how important it is to, like, go beyond just judging from the outside.
It's easy to just see a big age gap and think, ew, gross.
Yeah.
But we got to remember that there are two actual human beings in that relationship, each with their own, complicated story and reasons for being there.
Yeah, and those stories, they deserve to be listened to and understood without, immediately judging or saying they're bad.
It's about respecting people's choices, but also being real about the fact that someone could get hurt. It's a tough balance.
Absolutely. And I think it starts by admitting that it's okay to feel, uncomfortable or even judgmental. It's normal as humans to feel weird when we see something that challenges our, like, beliefs or what we think is normal.
It's not about pretending those feelings aren't there. It's more about looking at them and asking yourself, why do I feel this way? What am I assuming about this?
One thing that really hit me reading that Reddit thread was how important it is to listen to people who've actually been in age gap relationships.
You mean the people who, like, shared their own experiences, both good and bad?
Yeah, they know what it's actually like. They can help us understand all the little details and stuff that we might not even think about otherwise.
Like that one comment, someone said being in an age gap relationship when they were younger messed them up pretty bad. It's a reminder that these relationships, they can have consequences that last a long time, especially for the person who's less experienced.
It makes you think about empathy, right? And how what we do and the choices we make, they can really affect other people, even if we don't mean to hurt anyone.
So, okay, we're kind of wrapping up this deep dive into the crazy world of Reddit relationship advice.
Hmm.
What are some, like, key takeaways you think our listeners should keep in mind?
Oh, for sure. First thing, age is just one part of the whole relationship picture. It's not like some magic number that tells you if you'll be compatible or mature enough or if it'll be a good relationship.
Right, trying to make it all about math. It just doesn't work. We got to look beyond the numbers and think about the specific people, their values, what their relationship is actually like.
Second thing, we got to have these conversations with empathy and an open mind. It's easy to judge or put something down that we don't understand, but we really grow when we listen to different perspectives, even the ones that make us feel a little uncomfortable.
Especially those ones, right? That's where the good stuff happens.
Exactly. And last but not least, every single relationship is its own thing, complicated and unique. There's no one right answer when it comes to age gaps. The most important thing is that both people are choosing to be together freely, they understand what they're getting into, and they're on the same page about the potential problems and, the good stuff too.
That's so true. It's about being able to make your own choices, respect, and talking openly, no matter the age difference. Wow, we've covered a lot today. It feels like we did more than just, like, break down a Reddit thread. We got into some pretty deep questions about relationships and, what it means to be human.
I totally agree. It's been like a real mind trip. I'm glad we had this conversation.
Me too.
Ugh.
And everyone listening, thanks for coming along on this deep dive. Hopefully it's been interesting, got you thinking, maybe even challenged you a little.
Keep these conversations going in your own lives, challenge your own ideas, and when you talk about these complicated things, do it with empathy and an open mind.
And remember, the more we learn, the better we are at navigating this whole world of relationships and connecting with each other.
This whole conversation, it reminds me of the amazing work Shauna Palaj does on her YouTube channel, Voices of the Soul.
Oh, I love that channel. It's such a great place to explore these kinds of topics in a thoughtful and, like, engaging way.
Totally. It's all about open discussion, different perspectives, and, like, understanding what it means to be human. If you like this conversation, you'll definitely want to check it out.
And hey, while you're there, why not hit that subscribe button?
Yeah.
Give the video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Spread the love and keep these important conversations going.
Yeah, for sure. The more people we can get talking about this stuff, the better.
Yeah, it's so easy to get stuck in your own world, especially online. But channels like Shauna's, they remind you that there are so many other ways of looking at things. And, hearing those different viewpoints, it can really make you think.
For sure. It's a good way to question your own ideas, learn more about the world, and connect with people on a deeper level. Plus, Shauna's stuff is always so, well researched. It makes you think.
Oh, absolutely. She's great at taking those complicated topics and making them relatable and interesting. Before we finish up, I got to share this one comment from the Reddit thread. It totally made me laugh.
Oh, yeah. What was it? Reddit always has those little gems.
Okay, so someone said, and I quote, "He's probably just bad at talking to women his own age." I mean, kind of harsh, but, maybe there's some truth to it, right?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one. But hey, who are we to judge, right?
Exactly. In the end, everyone's just trying to figure things out, navigate this whole relationships thing and find what makes them happy. And for some people, that means dating someone older or younger.
And that's totally fine. As long as there's that mutual respect, open communication, and a real connection, age really is just a number.
Well said. All right, we're going to sign off and let you all process everything we talked about today. And definitely check out Shauna Polidge's Voices of the Soul channel for more awesome content like this.
Yep, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video, spread the word, and keep these important conversations going.
See you on the next Deep Dive. Until then, stay curious, keep talking about these things, and remember, the world's a pretty fascinating place and it's always changing.